Millie Bobby Brown, who plays Eleven. Finn Wolfhard, who plays Mike. Caleb McLaughlin, who plays Lucas. Noah Schnapp, who plays Will Byers. And Hayden Moderato, who plays Justin. This is a very enthusiastic room. I love it. So before we get started, I want to also mention that we are streaming live on Facebook and Instagram. You may have heard of those social media outlets. So welcome to all of our fans and followers on both of those sites and outlets. Please enjoy. Before we get into questions about the show, I wanted to congratulate you on your SAG Ensemble nomination, which is very exciting. And to Winona and Millie, who also earned individual nominations this year. So a question I always like to ask when I have a room full of actors, which is often, I like to ask who or what gave you your big break as a performer? And we can also apply this to the writers and directors as well. But anyone can start if anyone feels compelled to share his or her first big break moment. Please do.
Okay. I don't really know. I think you kind of just get it once you work on your first project, which was Once Upon a Time in Wonderland. It was like a reoccurring role. And I was really, really excited. And as soon as I done that, as soon as I was on screen, I fell in love with it. And I guess my big break was this show.
And how about you, David?
I did soap operas. Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
Steady work,
for film,
love it.
What?
Steady work on soap
Yeah, it's
opera.
great too. Like I did As the World Turns for 3 years. I was Officer Ron Shanks of the Oakdale Police Department. So I haven't come very far because now I'm just like another cop, but I'm a little more messed up and a little fatter. Yeah, I did soap operas for like 3 years in New York, and it was a great way to train because you shoot an hour of usable tape in a 12-hour day. So they edit on the fly, and if you can actually get your lines out in the right order, they move on. So anytime you see somebody be good in a soap opera, it is amazing. They are amazing. Yeah, where they say that I was too ugly and they pulled the camera away. How's Cleveland? Yeah, they don't do it live anymore. They used to do it live, but not anymore.
Winona, what was your
Winona
big break?
Ryder.
Give us your big break story.
There's big break, but then there's first job. I didn't know which one. Big break. Talking.
Big break.
Big break.
Come on, which suit? Yeah! Woo!
I think it was Lucas, wasn't it? Lucas?
This one. I don't know if it's because it's perception, so it's hard for me to say, but I would probably think Beetlejuice.
That sounds good. Thank you. And for the writers and directors, just briefly, you guys obviously you'd worked in television before, and Sean, you've been mostly features. But tell me a little bit about how you first broke through, and what was the project that got you noticed?
We were struggling for a long time, and then we wrote this script called Hidden that was something we thought we could do low budget. I mean, we really wanted to direct, and no one was interested in us directing anything. And then so we realized, we got to write stuff. We got to learn how to write. And then so we just taught ourselves how to write, and we ended up with this 90-page kind of supernatural thriller, which Warner Brothers ended up making and dumping. And so no one's ever seen it to this day. I mean, that's how it is. It's up and down, up and down. And then we got on a show called Wayward Pines, and we learned television, and then and that was crazy. So we learned that, and then we wrote this. I mean, this is really the first thing we've done that a lot of anyone really cared about, I feel. But we've been at it for a long time. It feels like it.
How about you, Sean?
Well, I mean, I went to film school like these guys did, though many years before them. And I don't know, the thing I was thinking about kind of is when Anna was saying, well, there's big break and there's when does it feel like your career started. And, this came across my desk between movies. And I just kind of knew instantly that this was something major and that these guys were a significant voice. And then I watched Hidden, the movie that the world never got to see, and it showed real talent in their filmmaking as well. And so, I don't know, it just kind of, I guess for me and for a room of actors and all of us who try and do something creative with our life, it's like you never kind of know what's going to be the moment that changes everything afterwards. So you have to do everything you do as well as you can, because you don't know what is going to be the shift to something different. And that's frankly what this show has been for all of us. It's been a real moment of change. So.
And because this is a room mostly filled with actors, I'd love to know, when you were strategizing the casting process, which none of this would work if you hadn't cast all these incredible people, what was your, I guess, what were the things that were non-negotiable, and what did you have in your head in terms of this dream ensemble, which I'm assuming we have on stage today?
Well, I mean, Winona and David came very, very quickly, just because we're huge fans of both of them, and so that was very fast. And but we, no, come on.
Well, we saw him
like
as Ron
12
Shanks,
times.
and we thought,
Yeah. No, they came very, very quickly, and Netflix was very supportive, and so that just came together quickly. But we knew that none of this would work without the younger kids clicking, and so we started that search very, very early on, almost right after we were greenlit, and it took. I mean, we saw how many? A lot, like 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean,
over
1,000.
And I have to credit to the Duffers and to Carmen Cuba, who's our casting director, who's exceptional. Because
Amazing.
these guys were so vigilant in not casting anyone unless they felt completely authentic to the character. And it's ended up creating this ensemble that is kind of weird and unique, and it's kind of, it works in all its disparate, odd pieces, because Ross and Matt were so determined to create something singular.
But it's not like there were backups. There wasn't a backup Dustin. Right. Like if Gaten hadn't been like, you know what, I don't want to do it, I don't know what, we'd be in trouble.
Thank
we
God
really
you didn't pass, Gaten.
Yeah,
if you had passed, we would be really...
We almost lost Finn for a second, but then he came back to us. And all was right. He was
Not
in demand.
True. And for Winona, you were actually on the cover of our August issue, in which you said, and I love this quote, you said, "I get a lot of, you don't have kids, how do you know how to act like a mother?" And you said, "I know nothing could compare and I haven't had the experience, but when my niece was born, I felt like I could jump in front of a car and die for this little person I didn't even know." I thought that was a beautiful way of, a lot of people play things they aren't in real life, which is no duh, you're an actor, right? But I want to know specifically, what about Joyce spoke to you in a way that maybe an experience you hadn't had when you had read other scripts in the last few years?
God, I mean, that's a lot of things spoke to me about her. I think the fact that she was flawed and just very human, and not perfect or cookie cutter. She wasn't just like the mom in the fluffy slippers in the corner, like, come on, kids. Like, which, you know, a lot of, when you read the parts of the mom, which I'm now of that age, that a lot of them are just sort of there like that. But she was so, you know, I think that it reminded me in a way, and I'm not comparing them because they're different films or things, but watching, like, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and these great movies that I grew up watching, like the Marsha Mason movies, and where they were just not perfect at all.
They're hardworking single moms,
yeah,
essentially.
Hardworking, doing the best they can. They're good people. But, you know, I think Joyce had a lot of guilt because she knew she was leaning on Jonathan, her older son, way too much, but she couldn't really do it any other way. And I just loved exploring the backstory, which, you know, I did with David a bit, and with these guys, and which, because you don't get to see much of it, it's sort of one scene before I start freaking freaking out.
But you may in season 2.
But I don't mean to be long-winded. It was just, I thought it was a great opportunity, and it was also something that I'd never done. And that was exciting to me, and just to work with these guys was really exciting. It was just sort of a perfect storm.
Absolutely. And David, what did you do to prepare to play Jim that may be distinct from other roles you've prepared to play?
I ate a lot of cheeseburgers. I wanted that dad bod. And then it was really hard to accomplish, too, because I'm normally so in shape. And then I smoked a lot of cigarettes. But seriously, I really started with, like, I did a lot of work. And it's funny, like, I do, you know, acting now, as you all know, like, I guess I get sometimes annoyed when they ask people, like, how they prepared for a role, and they say, like, I went to the gym and I really and they talk about their workout routine, because I do think, no, but I mean, I think it is a cultural problem of this sort of narcissism in our society around bodies and stuff, for men and women now. But I think that there's a lot to acting, and I think that in a weird way it's devolved, and I don't think that there's a lot of respect for our process and our craft. And we do a lot of work on the soul of the human being that we're trying to embody, and I did a lot of work, and that's, to me, that's really psychoanalytic work. Yeah. Like, you go way beyond the page. What? Yeah, I mean, like, the method acting, to me, that I admire from, you know, the films of the 70s and 80s and stuff. And not to say there isn't this good work going on by actors at this time. I can't characterize that. But I'll say that there was a movement in this country of acting that started with the group theater and then sort of became this Strasberg method acting, which I very much ascribe to. And really what it's about is, like, going into the soul and the psychoanalytics of this character. So for me, it really became about, like, you know, the interesting thing about him is he goes through this amazing arc. Like, he starts out kind of a jackass. Can I say that on Facebook? He starts out kind of a jackass in the beginning of the series. And what was, to me, so sophisticated about the writing of this is that you see in the first shot that there's a daughter, or you see that there's a family on the refrigerator, and then you cut to him on the couch drinking. And a lot of times writers will then make the character one-dimensional in the sense that that character is now sad, or that character is now angry, and that will play through, because we need to know that he lost a daughter and he's going to be angry. And the first scene you really see with Jim is he's funny, like Coffee and Contemplation, like. But that to me was very sophisticated in the sense that he's developed a personality to deal with this trauma that he's developed a shtick that, like we all do, to prevent the pain of that thing. And so for me, it was all about, like, really finding the fundamental kernel of him, which was, you know, this for me, a very personal thing of who Will Byers was to me. In other words, what would activate me to actively try to save a human being and truly sacrifice your life, and truly sort of on a mission to die. Like, he's sort of on a mission to die. And so that was really detailed in terms of how I came up with that. And it was a lot of work. I have an acting coach that I still work with, an acting teacher. I still go to class. You know, like, I'm totally committed to developing the craft of acting. So I worked a lot with the psychological kernels of that. And then it was a lot of fun to come up with the shtick, like, and to come up with, like, his sarcasm and, like, yeah, and, like, his smoking and his drinking and, like, all this stuff. Once I kind of had that activator that you see in kind of episode 3 when he gets lied to and he starts to punch people.
And I have to just add, though, that what was really great is I was kind of terrified, because I had heard from a lot of actors that TV is really fast and you don't have any time and this and that. But these guys really gave us that time, or the illusion of it. We felt like we you know, if we needed to, you know, and that really helped. You know, it really did. Thank you.
Well, it shows. It shows on screen. Millie, you weren't here last month when I grilled your co-stars on their auditions. But first of all, I wanted to know, what were your first thoughts when you read the script? Did you have a clear sense of who this young woman was, and did you have a sense of what she looked like, and was she clearly outlined for you? And how did you feel about stepping into her shoes, which, you know, it's a very difficult part?
Well, it was difficult going into a character that doesn't speak. I didn't have anything to really base myself off of, but the Duffers. The Duffers would tell me little things, and I would kind of put it in. I had this whole character in my head, and I really can't, follow up because you guys are just, you guys have it. I was just kind of like there, and I wrote things down. And I was like, I don't know if she has a look. Maybe she has a look. And then, the Duffers and I and Sean, we all collaborated our ideas on the look that Eleven has when she uses her powers. But 11... Very good, David. Very good. He read for the show. He read for 11, actually, and I read for Jim Hopper. I did. We switched characters. But yeah, no, it was really fun getting into, because 11's so, she has this really weird, contrast to her where she can be really vulnerable and be in the state where, she's with Mike and the kids and she doesn't really know what's going on. And then she has this, don't want to mess with her side. So it was really fun to work with that. And I really thank the Duffers and Sean for kind of helping me create her, because I didn't create her by myself. Definitely not.
No, but I remember the audition was because there were no lines, and I think Finn gave you a wig, and you were putting on this wig for the first time, and it was just that look. Even on our crappy digital camera, just seeing the look in your face, it felt like there's that sense of wonder and innocence, but you didn't feel quite human in that. So all the way back then, it was there, whatever it was, and I don't know how you did it because no one else could do it.
And I remember that. I was going to say, I remember that day in an office building in Hollywood when all you kids were there for your callback, and you did that scene, and you had all the kind of awkward wonder and innocence of 11. But right at the end of the take, I remember you kind of lowered your chin, and it was literally the first time. And this was not a note. This was not scripted, nothing. But you brought that darkness at the end of a take at your callback. And I remember that was the moment the guys were shooting at themselves. They were I just remember we were in an office and you went down with it and you were the darkness of 11, and that's when we knew. Yeah, no, it's that we knew. You had it. You had it in you.
I don't know. But okay. But, yeah.
So polite. So British and so polite, right?
I also remember when I done that look in the audition, me and Finn was about to puke. We felt so nervous, that, and it's so amazing because you go into a room, and even now, I got strange, now I'm doing Stranger Things, and I go into an audition room. I still have that oh my god, So it's it's not really. When I went in there, it was I met this guy. And we both felt like we was about to puke.
Yeah, I didn't talk to her. I was totally.
We didn't speak to each other. It was
okay, I
hi.
did what happened? You came in. We had another chemistry read before, and then you came in, and for some reason, the change, because when you're used to one person and you're doing something with one person, and then all of a sudden it changes and there's a new person doing the same thing, it's so my body reacted in I was gonna throw up for some reason. So immediately when Millie came in, she was like, "Hi," and I was like, "Oh, hi, how's it going?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird.
I mean, that didn't happen to me. I'm sorry, Finn. No, it did. I went in first, and there's this guy, and then there's Finn, and we just immediately clicked. And then I met the other kids. Gaten made a really great impression. He just shouted and was like, "Millie!"
Yeah.
And then I had Caleb, who's just cool, and I kind of wanted to be like him. It's really chilled out, and I'm very nervous and stuff like this. So it's an incredible time. And then when I met Noah's my age, so me and Noah kind of, So we've had an incredible experience, and I've had such a great time becoming 11 and spending time with all of these incredible people.
And for the rest of your co-stars, what day or scene would you point to as being a time in which you felt scared, and how did you get through that moment? Was it from one of the directors, one of the producers, one of the writers, one of your co-stars? Was there a moment you thought, God, I'm really feeling like I can't do this?
Well, I've been scared of the Demogorgon before, and he just being like seeing him in that costume and hearing that loud roar, just that alone, even in real life, it's just this guy in a costume, but it freaks you out just seeing it. And then there's the other one where the face opens up with the teeth. It's freaking scary.
Did you guys have nightmares at all when you go home at the end of the night? Would you dream about this stuff?
Can you hear me? Okay. Not really. But one part I really got scared was there was this scene. Oh, well, you guys know. The scene where Gaten picks up Millie, puts her on the table, right? And we're listening to the monster, the Demogorgon outside of the room, right? So there's this big speaker behind the dresser behind us. And we have no idea the big is going to come on. So we're waiting there, and we're thinking the Duffer's going to make the sound. Okay, monster. We hear, and then we actually got scared, and I think that was the take they used. But my scream is more of a high-pitched scream. Not exactly so that's my most scariest moment.
How about you, Gaten? I'm sure you have a story.
Well, for me, it was less like scary and more just like nerve-wracking. But it was the scene when we're in Lucas's house and I'm trying to have them make up from fighting, because that's the scene in the audition that I really had to nail to get the part. And I'd done it in the audition with another boy who was auditioning for Mike, and it was either Matt or Ross who was doing Lucas. And great job, guys. Whoever it was.
I don't know what you're talking. Really?
Yeah, you. I think it was you that was like Lucas, and you did the scene. But
yeah, Ross usually read for Lucas for some reason.
Yeah.
But.
Okay. But we were doing that scene, and I had to do it, and I'm like, should I do it like I did it in the audition or something? And I did the scene, and I felt so nervous about it, and Matt and Ross were just like, yeah, it's fine, you're doing great. I'm like, this is a scene that I really have to make sure that I do a good job on. But yeah, I hope you guys.
It's funny you were nervous.
It, right?
There was nobody else auditioning for Dustin. It was. It was.
Great.
Yeah. Well, going back to your. How can I follow that? Going back to like if you were ever like scared or unsure of like a scene or like scared. There are like two scenes for some reason that come into mind. Was the first like D&D scene was like the first 10 minutes were like hell for me for some reason, because I walked in because I'd never been on like a full film set before. I'd always done like indie stuff and like the biggest cameras I've ever seen, and like a full set that people just created. I don't know, it was crazy to see in this, so that was sort of intimidating. But there was one that I don't know why I beat myself up over. Was I was with Sean. I had to do like the crying stuff, and I was always insecure about the crying stuff for some reason. And there's one take that we did, but you guys cut it. Was the I'm gonna call you out. There's okay. It's okay. After, I mean, it's not really important, but. After, it was like one of my favorite things to do, but
Spit it out, Finn.
Let's go, Finn.
yeah, you
Just
cut it.
go.
Okay, so after the fire truck where we find Will's body, there was a take that we shot where I was riding down this trail, and it was just like one single tear fell, and I like wiped it away and just kept riding. It was like a huge like golf cart track shot.
Yep.
And you guys ended up cutting it.
I mean,
No,
I'm so glad I did this panel so I could be haunted by guilt from now on.
Sean.
Like,
No.
I'm gonna find a way to wedge that into season 2. I promise you that.
Flashback.
Deleted scenes. Yeah.
So one last question before we move to the audience questions. So for the younger actors, being able to work with David and Winona, I'm sure was incredibly wonderful. And I'm wondering, what did you learn from them on set, a lesson or a technique or anything even about the business that you've taken with you that you feel like is serving you now in season 2, but also beyond this project?
All right.
No, you work with Winona mostly, so.
Yeah.
I just remember. I remember you taught me this just randomly on set. It was when it was at the very end of the first season, and it was the shot. It was like going out, and we were supposed to just be talking, and she told me to repeatedly say carrots and peas, rhubarb, and I never forgot that ever since. And I just thank you, Winona.
Well, it's when for any of you who've done when you're in the background and you're supposed to be talking but you don't have any lines. Okay, watch. I'm gonna mouth carrots and peas, rhubarb. It actually looks like I'm saying words instead of blah 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 blah. And I learned that. I learned that at ACT in San Francisco. But then Catherine O'Hara in the great Christopher Guest movie, For Your Consideration, I think she does it.
She does hub up.
Oh, she does hub up. But I remember when I worked with her on Beetlejuice, we talked about that. But it actually, seriously, if you have to be in the background and you don't have dialogue, but you're supposed to be talking, and you can do it angry, like, or you could do it like. And all I'm saying is carrots and peas, rhubarb.
You guys didn't know you were getting a master class in acting today.
I don't know who came up with that, but
that is the most brilliant thing I've ever
Thank you so much for that.
Do you know, this is the thing though. I wish I could use that, but I don't speak. So I think I would just be more like.
But it only works if you say it. It's so. Well, I think it'll. If you say it,
you do it really well.
I think it's just you.
But yeah.
So I want to get to a couple audience questions. So 2 things. 1, don't bother asking about season 2 because there's no point. And second, when we're wrapped, all these fine people have to leave right away. So please do your best to not rush the stage, despite your best tendencies to do so. So I will take a couple questions. We have a couple of mics, so just raise your hand. Young lady here in the red hair.
Hi. Okay, so there is a scene where 11 walks down and she's not supposed to be seen by, I think, Will's family. Or no, not Will. Sorry, Mike's family. I'm looking at you and said Will. And you guys all distract at the same time with like spitting out milk and banging on the table, and that's my all-time favorite scene. And I was like, just crack up every time. And I was wondering how that came about, like whose idea that was, and like who choreographed all of that to happen at the right time. Because it was amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean we wrote it in the script, and then it was really I think it never turned timed out correctly, and then we just edited it so that it worked. And then Holly, the little toddler, was supposed to bang on the table, but Gaten was banging, and it made her upset, and she started to get slumped down into her seat and cry, and we used that take. Because she was, 3? I mean, she doesn't do what we tell her to do. So we just train a camera on her at all times, and Gaten upset her, and it was great. So it turned out a little different, but we loved the result.
Very good. Sir in the red shirt on the end of the aisle there.
Piggyback on the question you asked the kids, because I'm curious if there have been moments for the adults when there has been genuine fear-induced. A couple spring to mind, even in that first episode that I just saw, and I'm curious what you were feeling. Maybe, David, when you're walking in that shack and your co-policeman comes in there.
Oh, yeah, that was kind of fun, right? Yeah, I know. Is this on? Is this one?
Is this? Oh, whoa.
Yeah, in terms of like visceral fear moments, that was really fun. That was on a stage, though. That was totally like artificially produced. Like there was actually not. I mean, that was just like some work I was doing, some personal work. In terms of like action, it was. What the hell is so? I do work. I'm not just a pretty face. I I mean, for me, like, truly the fear stuff was, in general sense, the fear stuff for me, and this is amazing about Carmen Cuba, and what I think I can say about this whole cast is, like, I do feel like we're miscast by a basic traditional casting director. We are all miscast, and we're all a bunch of freaks in a certain way. I mean, Winona is playing a mother, which is like a new thing, right? I'm normally a villain. In all my movies, I'm like a villain, or like supporting guy. And they give me like this heroic leading man. Like, these kids should not be on camera at all. We all have, there she goes. Oh my God. And even like we all have weird bodies, and like I love this cast. Like, I just love the uniqueness of this cast. So for me, and I think for all of us, like, we were down in Atlanta, we were shooting this show, and we everyone was like, did you think it was going to be great? And I was like, no. Like, I think you guys felt this too, right? We were terrified. Like, we were down in Atlanta, we were just constantly shooting. And I think we had high hopes for it, but I think we were all just afraid and wanted to do the best job. So for me, the constant fear was that I would just suck, like, the whole time. So that was more than the visceral fears of the Demogorgon or anything. That was, like, constantly the fear in my head.
Okay, one last question. Young lady in the beige coat on the end here.
Hi. The show is amazing. I have a question for the Duffer Brothers primarily. The show, obviously you guys have been interviewed about how it's very reminiscent of some other, inspired by a lot of, older movies, and it just breathes so well. And I feel like so much TV and movies nowadays, like, move so fast that you miss the characters, you miss the feelings, the relationships. And the show really, I love the characters and the relationships, and that's what makes it so special for me. I was hoping you could talk a little bit about how you developed those characters and how you really managed to succeed with that.
Well, I think for us, and I think why, even though we grew up as just movie people, that was our first passion. I think why we started to get excited about television, especially now with places like Netflix giving you even more freedom, is that we're able to tell these supernatural stories with our, all this childish stuff we love, whether it's, interdimensional monsters or whatnot. But at the same time, the reason we fell in love with these movies in the first place, like Close Encounters or E.T. or whatever it is, it's like, yes, they're genre, but the heart of it is they're about these characters, and we were unable to do that, or finding ourselves unable to do that on film, where if it's a horror movie, it's just got to be scary. If it's a comedy, there's just got to be a laugh every 10 seconds or a certain amount, whereas on TV we can go, well, yes, this can be funny, but it also can be scary, and it can also be dramatic. And I think that's why we fell in love with these movies in the first place. So I think it was taking those ideas and moving them into this new medium where you could take a break. It doesn't always have to be about a monster, and you could just just learn more about these characters. And I think that's what got us excited about it.
I agree completely. That a lot of movies now, especially the blockbuster stuff, it moves for me, it's too fast. Because I don't get into it. I get exhausted. It's like they cut it really fast, and there's all this action, and I get bored. Like, I actually check out.
Except Sean's movies aren't like that.
And so it's not across the board, but a lot of movies I feel that way, and that's why I've been getting more into television. So, and then we started to see people that we admired kind of making the transition in television and telling these stories in a very cinematic way, but also they had time to breathe. So we wanted to do that and, get our monster in there too, which we did. It was fun.
Well, thank you all for being here. Good luck at the Globes tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.